Hello and welcome to the channel. Today we're back in Star Ruler 2 playing in the sandbox mode, which allows you to create basically ship designs at your leisure and test them out. We're doing kind of a challenge here. Basically we're trying to design our own version of the combat ships to match their developer made counterparts. So for example with the heavy gunship, it's quite interesting design they gave us to start with. It's fairly robust altogether. What we've done is made the parameters basically the cost of production, which is 1.4 labor and 16k credits. So our equivalent thereof is our Raptor gunship here, which matches that. And as you'll see, the stats are definitely different on it. Of course, weapon systems as well are different. And basically what we've done is just gone through with each of the default ships, and we've made an equivalent thereof and are testing it out in the sandbox here. So what we're going to spawn is we're going to spawn a non-armed capital ship we've made. Working titles, of course, the Justice Carrier. What we have here is basically a huge supply pool for it, so that way supply should not be a factor, because in our earlier tests we've done on this before in recording, the supply would run out on some of the ship designs, and that would just completely wipe them out in situations where they should have enough supply to fight effectively. They are clearly more dominant craft than their counterpart, but once that supply runs out, it's just gone. So that just the whole nother part of the fleet mechanics. But basically we're going to use the same carrier type, the same Justice Carrier for both sides to make sure that it's completely even. So we'll go ahead and spawn in first one here, and the first thing we're going to test on this is going to be the missile boats. So of course the amount of capacity each ship takes up is built into the design as well, so larger design ships are going to take up a lot more capacity than smaller ships, and of course that is going to be a deciding factor as well versus the number of ships you can have out there for a lower end design compared to a more complex design. So we'll go ahead and execute this order to attack. We'll move, technically. You can see the fight here is fairly one-sided. Our micro lancers, which are the equivalent of these missile boats, are just completely decimating them. And that's pretty much wiped out their fleet in no time with hardly any casualties. Let's take a look here. Okay, 160 casualties, so about a fifth of the fleet was destroyed in that combat there. And I'll look over the designs real quick. So the missile boat here, it's got a 1.8 damage, 71.4 health, and 4.6 acceleration. Now you'll notice that they're wasting a lot of extra space on control that they could use for other systems. That is a design flaw in the initial ships. Now our micro lancer here, it's a 2.4, it's much slower, it uses exactly the forward control it produces. It even has a slight ammo store on it, and of course it's 2.3 damage and 80 total health. So basically by cutting out those control blocks, we were able to make a more efficient attack ship here. Now the behavior also matters as well. It really affects how it fights, and that can make a huge difference compared to different ships. For example, with our next test, what we will test out next is the beam ship and the RF Corvette equivalent. We originally had the RF Corvette set up as a brawler, which basically meant it would just, or sorry, it was a cavalry. It basically meant it would just run through the enemy fleet and attack from the other side. Now with the beam ships, they're armored on the rear end, so that actually gives them an advantage. So those ships that would run forward and attack from the rear would do less damage than the ones hitting from the front. So now let's take a look at it with the different behaviors selected and see how they handle against each other. Alright. Sending both fleets in. Notice that initial alpha strike there, the Corvettes definitely got a huge advantage right away. And they're just decimating that fleet. Here we are at the end of it, we've taken 47 ships. Or lost 47 ships, rather. So go ahead and clear that out. Alright, so next we'll look at a gunship and the patrol craft, which are the equivalent thereof, of course. So the gunship is using rail guns, and it's fairly up-armored for its size. Again, control space is wasting, well, space. And of course, the patrol craft has 2 wasted space, but you get 4 for each control point, and we needed the extra 2. So we kind of half-wasting the space, basically. No, not really. Though we could technically split some of these off into another set of 2 lasers just to have more shots down range. It's still the same DPS. Now, it's not that heavily armored. 21 HP compared to 27, which is a significant difference at this level. 0.63 damage per second compared to 0.61. So we're kind of looking at a disadvantage here altogether, but let's see how this plays out as far as the actual ship design. You know, so that initial strike there really made the difference. They started out with much higher strength than we did, and now they are just getting torn apart. Let's take a quick look at the design again. So our patrol craft here is set to Brawler, which is making the difference here. Basically, it's going to prioritize supports, and I believe Brawler means that it's also going to focus on killing one support at a time, basically. Or basically the equivalent thereof, so it's going to manage where it's actually targeting. Now, interestingly enough, apparently we don't have enough damage coming in to be able to kill this capital ship from the head on. Or almost at all, really. Okay, so you would definitely not be able to kill a capital ship with a fleet of these, but they would work wonders on our smaller targets. Of course, we only lost 134, so a tenth of what we had, basically. So we clear that out. Let's see. Yeah, I do believe that was all of our testing there. Alright, so that covers our basic testing for the combat ship variants. I definitely would like to see what you guys come up with a similar standpoint. The behavior makes the largest amount of difference against different targets. So for example, if you're attacking in heavy gun ships or beam ships, you don't want to have a raiding behavior that's going to send your ships to the rear and attack from behind. You want to take them head on, which is where our Raptor gunship has a really strong point, and of course our Micro Lancer as well, because those are all set up for head-on conflicts. Now, if say the missile boats had been set up to raid, they would have ran past our Micro Lancers and hit them in the rear and would have just decimated them completely. But of course they were not set up for that. The Corvette is fairly well rounded. It can basically take good damage and deal decent damage on most every spacing, and the rearward missile launcher does have some good effects on it as well. But yeah, anyways, come up with your own designs, guys. Let me know what you think of these. And of course, as always, hope it was helpful or inspirational in some way, and you have a good day.